Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Data Analytics, Machine Learning, and Sentiment Analysis information session. My name is V, and my co-host is Ray. We're so glad that you all are here. Throughout the session, we will be taking questions in the chat, so please feel free to type your questions there. Please make sure to keep your mic and video off as this session is being recorded. Now let's get started. First, I'd like to share the agenda. We'll have a short introduction of today's speakers, briefly share our mission at UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education, provide a short background of Socratic Arts, give you a glance into the field of data analytics, go over a course overview, do a course demo, inform you about the course requirements, go over the course dates and costs, and the people you can contact with questions, and then open it up for some questions from all of you. So Ray, let's learn a little about you first.
Okay, my name is Ray Baris. I have a PhD in computer science from the University of Texas at Austin. My background is artificial intelligence research. I've been a professor at Northwestern University, also at Carnegie Mellon University, and I have very significant industrial experience as well. I got bored with academia a few years ago, to be honest, and so I left and joined a group of friends in a company called Socratic Arts, and I'll tell you about Socratic Arts a little later in the presentation.
All right, thank you, Ray. Like I said earlier, my name is V. Pereira. I graduated from UC Davis in 2015 and have been working as a program specialist for CPE for the past 3 years. I'm very excited to be working with Socratic Arts and creating these programs for you. As a side note, if you haven't already seen the updates on our website, our Immersion program offerings continue to grow. We went from offering 4 courses in the winter to 10 courses for the summer. And I'm very proud that we have been able to work with Socratic Arts to provide even more career options for you to explore. And by the way, we love receiving feedback from our Immersion program students at any time. And we're always looking to improve your experience in our courses. So please feel free to email me. Moving on to CPE's mission, continuing in professional education has been the lifelong learning arm of UC Davis, providing learning opportunities that range from youth to international to professional communities. We have served students in Northern California, all 50 states, and more than 100 countries, and we hope to continue our reach in the future. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ray again to tell you about this exciting program and give you a little background on how it all began.
Thanks, V. So you probably don't know who Socratic Arts is, so let me tell you a little bit about it. Socratic Arts was founded by a visionary cognitive science and artificial intelligence researcher, Professor Roger Schenck. And as I said, my background is also artificial intelligence research. And as AI researchers back in the days of classic AI, so to speak, we looked at human cognition as a model for building intelligent systems. And when we looked at learning, Roger in particular was struck that the way students are taught in school at all levels, from young children all the way to adults in professional education, does not align with how people naturally think and learn. So Roger abandoned artificial intelligence research many years ago to devote himself to transforming education. So you know what school's like, right? A goofy professor like me lectures. You largely ignore me. You look at Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever it is you like. And you kind of drift in and out of paying attention. Every once in a while, you're given some small, well-defined homework problems, and you take a test. Well, cognitive science research unambiguously tells us that that type of learning does not transfer naturally from the learning situation to application. In other words, you might learn things to pass a test, but you can't apply what you learn in real world tasks. So what we've done is we have completely eliminated this lecture homework test model. And instead, what we do is we put students in an authentic role. They're a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. They're doing natural language processing. And they do the same tasks that professionals do. And they are supported as they do those tasks by extensive online performance support material, and more importantly, by very knowledgeable human mentors uh, who are always available to provide help, advice, and feedback. And I'm particularly excited about this course because the two mentors for this course are working professional data scientists. So, you might say, well, okay, data analytics, why would I study that? Well, I mean, one explanation, and it certainly resonates with adults, perhaps more than with younger students, is jobs. There is currently a tremendous shortage of people with analytical expertise and an enormous shortage of people with the ability to make decisions by applying the results of analyses. The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that there will be 11.5 million new jobs in analytics related fields by 2026. And out of all of the subdomains of data analytics, the highest growth will be in machine learning. And machine learning is the focus of this program. And beyond being the focus of this program, machine learning is really the foundation of modern AI. So when you hear all these things about AI and whatnot, they're really talking about machine learning. So again, to give you more detail about the course, it is 100% online. Students will work through 3 tasks during the course. At every step, mentors are available to provide coaching. They'll provide help, advice, and feedback. They won't lecture, but they'll do things like do group problem solving, technology demonstrations, help students reflect on what they're learning. And as I said earlier, we believe in situating things in the real world. So this program is too. And this program is based on a very successful adult professional certificate program, which has educated hundreds of people in data analytics and data science. And just as a quick aside, 92% of the graduates of that program are working in the field and doing quite well. Uh, Something that concerns people about a technical field like this is, gee, do I need to be a programmer? Well, we have structured this program so no programming is required. We're going to use a graphical tool called RapidMiner. Let me just kind of pop out of this real quick just for fun and show you what RapidMiner looks like. So it's a graphical environment. And basically you drag and drop little modules into a workspace and you connect them and you build an analytics pipeline that does things like machine learning. And so it's very easy. It's very intuitive to use. I'll go back into the demo, the discussion now. And another nice thing about the nature of this project-based instruction is we can provide students a lot of opportunities to learn things beyond purely technical things. Analytical thinking, communication skills, problem solving skills, and something else that's important is self-directed learning. When you look at these technical fields, they're changing very rapidly. And someone who's going to work in a field like this needs to keep learning in order to stay current and succeed. And that would certainly benefit a student, even if they decide not to go into data analytics, data science, machine learning as a profession. So let me tell you about the 3 tasks that students will do in this course. So in the first task, they're working for a large telecommunications provider, and that provider is losing customers. And so what the students will do is they'll use machine learning techniques of classification. Classification is using the features of things to put them into categories. And by doing classification, they'll be able to answer questions like, do customers with different demographic features churn more? Do they turn over? Do they leave as customers more than others? Customers with which features are the ones most and least likely to churn? If you're considering churn, are students who just have a phone or just have an internet service, or both more likely to churn? And then is there a correlation between the nature of the customer's contract with the company and churning? And that might be something somewhat beyond the scope of what they can determine from the data. So they would perhaps need to suggest further research. In the second task, they're going to work for a large electronics retailer. And that retailer wants to focus its online marketing on the new products that are most likely to be profitable. So the students are going to use another machine learning technique called regression. What that is, that's predicting the value of an unknown variable based on the values of known variables. And so what they'll do is they'll predict the sales volumes of new products. And then they'll use those sales volumes to estimate the profitability of each and to make a recommendation to the sales team as to which projects to feature in marketing. Finally, they'll be working for a government health agency that's trying to create a set of messaging initiatives around COVID. And so what they will do is they will analyze sentiment about people's attitudes towards COVID and how they're changing. They will harvest data from the live Twitter stream. They will examine the prevalence of positive and negative tweets about COVID-19, and then they'll use that analysis to determine how sentiment is changing in major cities like San Francisco, Atlanta, and New York City. So very cool task. And this, of course, is the natural language processing task, because the tweets themselves are not discrete features like in the previous machine learning task, but they are full-blown natural language. Okay, let's go in and let's look at one of these tasks just for fun. Are there any questions before I do? Please feel free to type a question in the chat if you have one at this point. Okay, no questions yet, so let's jump into the demo. So this is the course website. We introduce students to this broad area that's called data mining. It's extracting patterns from large amounts of data and using those patterns to do things like make predictions. These are the skills the student will learn in this course. So it's really a comprehensive list of very sophisticated skills. And to be able to learn and use these at a relatively young age really is pretty exciting. We do ask students to buy a book. The book is called Data Mining for the Masses. And it really is kind of the comprehensive guide to using this RapidMiner tool for various kinds of analyses. And so it's a very good book. There is a free version available online, but we strongly recommend buying the current version, which you could buy from Amazon or wherever, perhaps buying the online edition. And the reason for that is because the tool has changed markedly over the years. And if you buy the old version, the things that you'll see in the book will not correspond to what you're seeing in the tool. Okay, so you are working for the telecommunications company, and they're very concerned about customers churning, about customers leaving the company. And so we talked before about the questions that the data scientist is asked to answer, and they're going to use machine learning techniques of classification to answer these questions. Rather than having students pull data from a database, which is somewhat complex task on its own, we've done that for them, and we give them the data in a ready to process format. So here's what they're going to do. They're going to answer those questions, and they're going to write a report. It'll be a short report, which could be a Word document or maybe even a short PowerPoint presentation that summarizes their findings, any conclusions they draw, and explains how their analysis supports those conclusions. we have something called a project roadmap, which takes them through the process step by step. So the first thing we'll do is get started. And since this is an area broadly called data science, we're going to introduce them to this notion of data science and a systematic process for doing a data science project. You can see we have a lot of detail and explanation. We have learning resources, which have still more information. So if they want to learn more, say, about professional data science processes, here are a couple of possibilities in the learning resources. Then the next thing they'll do is they'll import the data into the RapidMiner tool. And something that they'll need to do is the data will not necessarily import in a completely usable form. So they will actually need perhaps to clean up the data and to transform some of the features. So for example, there is a feature senior citizen, and it's coded as zeros and ones in the data, but those are not really numbers. Those are just stand-ins for categories. So the student will need to tell RapidMiner that these are what are called nominal variables, and they need it to not be treated as numbers. After they pre-processed, they will actually do visualization. When you're getting ready to use these machine learning algorithms, it's really nice to do some exploratory analysis to get your hands dirty first. And one of the best ways to do this is to visualize the data and look at it. So we take students through a visualization process. Then we're diving into machine learning. And the way that you do classification is you create something called a decision tree. We do recommend some pre-reading before they get started. There is, if they wanted, a lot more detail on various things that are available in the learning resources. So they will build these decision trees. It explains how to use the decision tree and says, can you answer any of the questions she asked using the decision tree that the machine learning algorithm produces? And of course, we'll coach them, we'll give them feedback, we'll give them help and advice on determining that. Next, they'll go in and they'll identify the features that correlate heavily with churn, with customers leaving as customers. We recommend some additional pre-work where they'll learn more about selecting machine learning models, about evaluating those models. They'll learn still more about applying decision trees to solve problems of this type. And then we take them through the process of answering that question. And this cross-validation it's referred to is a way to determine how accurate a model will be on a novel data set, in case you're wondering. And you can see we take them through, there's a lot of detail. Again, there's still more information available in the learning resources. And they'll end up building an analytics pipeline. And it will look something like this. And they can run this in RapidMiner. It will produce output. They, as intelligent human beings, will interpret that output and answer the questions that the CTO of the company has asked. Based on the previous steps in this step, they'll should have enough information to answer most of the CTO's questions. So they'll write that short report, either as a Word doc or a PowerPoint presentation, and submit it. We remind them of the things that we want them to address in their report, and they will submit it. And we use what's called a mastery-based approach. And what that means is that if a student submits a report and we think the student could do better, and by doing better, we think the student could better master the underlying knowledge and skills, we'll give the student a lot of feedback and ask the student to do additional work and improve what they've done. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with the demo right now. So let's jump back into the presentation. So this approach, this project-based approach that's based on real-world tasks is something called the story-centered curriculum approach. We developed this when I was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University, and about 1,200 students went through graduate programs at Carnegie Mellon taught entirely this way, and hundreds more have taken individual courses taught this way. And as I mentioned earlier, this approach puts a strong emphasis on skills beyond purely technical skills: analytical thinking, communication, uh, creative problem solving, and importantly, self-directed learning. And again, I want to emphasize that the mentors are, to be cliche, the secret sauce of the program. The mentors for this particular course are outstanding. And they have been teaching data science to adult learners for many years. And they will ensure the students have a great experience in the program. So what does a student need to succeed? Well, a student does need to have strong basic computer skills. They need to be able to install a software package, set up file and folder structures on their machine. And basically, one way that a colleague of mine put it is not being scared to do complicated things on a computer if you've got step-by-step support to do them. The student does not need to be a programmer, although these machine learning techniques are statistically based. The student does not need a background in statistics, but any statistics that are needed will teach them just enough, just in time to succeed. And of course, because the course is taught online, they'll need a desktop computer or a laptop and a high-speed internet connection, because students will be meeting with their mentors using Zoom. So this program will run June 7th through July 16th, which is 6 weeks. We'll have a 2-hour meeting in the late afternoon from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. And the tuition for the program is $1,375. And you can register at this URL. You don't need to write it down. Of course, you probably couldn't write it down as it flashes by you quickly on the screen. We'll make sure you get a copy of this presentation. If you'd like, you can even have a recording of this information session, and you can get it from there. You can even click on it. So again, here are some people you can contact. So my name is Ray Baris, and if you have any questions about the content of the program or how it's taught, please contact me. That's my email address. The program manager for the immersion programs, the career exploration immersion programs, is Sandy Montrose. You can contact her. And if you have specific administrative questions, you can certainly contact V. Okay, so that then ends the formal presentation. And perhaps you got the irony of me saying, we don't believe in lectures. So because you didn't ask questions, we didn't interact. I guess I just gave you a lecture. So please ask some questions.
I have a question, Ray. If I was a student and something came up that made me miss class, what should I do? Like, what would you advise that I do?
You would contact the mentor, and the mentor would make arrangements to help you with whatever you missed. I mean, the mentors are there to help you succeed. They are our full-time employees, and their only job is to support students. Okay, anyone else? Any questions? Well, perhaps questions will occur to you a little later. And if they do, please email me or V or Sandy, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have. If you want to talk about the program, we'll even be glad to talk with you.
All right, so we thank you so much for coming and hearing us out. Thank you, Ray, for your presentation. Please, like Ray said, please email us if you have any questions, and I'll be following up with this information session for you to have for your records. All right, guys, so have a great day, and thank you again for joining.
Yes, thank you all very much. Have a good evening. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.